Tuesday evening, winter 1974. The fire's going in the front room and the whole family is squeezed around one television set. Not one each. One. And nobody owns it. It's rented, paid for weekly, from radio rentals or rumbelows. The screen flickers. Then it dies. Not because anything is broken, because the meter has run out and nobody can find a 10-pence piece. If you grew up working class in 1970s Britain, you don't need me to explain that moment. You can feel it. The scramble through coat pockets, the hands down the back of the sofa, your mum lifting up the biscuit tin, someone eventually finding a coin that's gone warm from being carried too long. The meter clunks. The lights come back on, and everybody breathes out. That right there is a feeling that no amount of money can buy back. You might have forgotten some of what I'm about to describe, but the second I mention it, it is going to come straight back. Because this isn't just nostalgia. This is your actual life. The cold bedrooms, the hand-me-downs, the catalogue lady on a Friday, the chip shop, the way your mum could feed 6 people from almost nothing and make it taste like a proper meal. These are the things only we remember, and tonight we're remembering them together. Your mum didn't call you in for tea, the streetlights did. No mobile phones, no apps, no arranged playdates. She opened the back door, said 3 words, "Go on, out," and you were gone until those orange bulbs flickered on above the lampposts. That was your curfew, not a minute later. And you knew it. The street was your entire world. Kirby across the road, Bulldog in the park. Knock-a-door run if you were feeling brave. Tin Can Alley with whatever you could drag out of someone's bin. You made a full afternoon from absolutely nothing and you loved every second of it. But here is what nobody tells you when they talk about those days. You were never actually unsupervised. You just didn't know it. Every parent on that street was watching. Not just their own kids, everybody's kids. If you stepped out of line 3 streets away, your mother knew about it before you got home. Mrs. Patterson at number 12 would clip you round the ear herself and then ring your mum who'd do it again when you got through the door. You were surrounded by eyes you couldn't see. And somehow that made you safer than any app ever could. But those streets had rules you learned fast, and the biggest rule of all was the nets. Every working class front window in Britain had net curtains. White, lacy, and absolutely furious with judgment. If your nets were clean and bright, you were respectable. If they'd gone grey, people talked. You knew exactly which neighbour was the twitcher, the one whose curtain moved every single time a car pulled up or a stranger came down the road. Nothing happened on that street without being clocked, reported, and fully discussed over the fence by lunchtime. You had no privacy, but you had something worth more. You had people who noticed. Someone noticed if your milk bottles weren't taken in by 9 o'clock. Someone noticed if the kids hadn't been out. Someone was always watching, even if they'd never in a million years admit it. And when it came to buying anything for the house, you didn't go to a department store. You went to the catalogue, Kay's, Littlewoods, Grattan. That enormous book on the sideboard, the size of a telephone directory and twice as heavy. It had everything inside it. Clothes, shoes, toys, furniture, curtains, bedding. And you didn't pay up front. You paid the catalogue lady. She was usually someone 3 doors down. She'd knock on a Friday evening and collect £1 or 2 towards whatever you'd ordered. A new winter coat in 1975 might cost you £6 through the catalogue. That is nearly £70 in today's money, paid in small amounts, week by week, across the whole year, while the coat was already keeping your kid warm. Children would lie on the carpet for hours, flipping through the toy section with a biro, circling things they wanted, things they'd never get. But the circling was part of the pleasure. And at Christmas, that toy section got more attention than the television. But what came through the door every week wasn't just the catalogue lady. You heard it before you saw it, that deep echoing shout carrying down the road. Rag and bone. Deep into the 70s, the rag and bone man still came through the estates, sometimes with a horse and cart, sometimes with a battered flatbed truck with rust along the wheel arches. Either way, every child on the street came running. You'd drag out old clothes, broken pots, scrap metal, whatever your mum could spare without missing it. And in return, you got a balloon, maybe a goldfish in a plastic bag if you'd brought enough. That goldfish never lasted the week. Everyone knew it. Nobody cared. You got a goldfish for an old jumper, and that was an absolute result. And if the rag and bone man was one way to get something from nothing, collecting pop bottles was the other. Corona, R. Whites, Alpine. Every bottle had a deposit on it. You took the empties back to the corner shop and they gave you money. 3 pence a bottle in the early 70s. That's nearly 40 pence in today's money, per bottle. Kids searched hedges, knocked on neighbours' doors, checked the side of the road on the way home from school. A bag of 6 bottles was enough for a quarter of cola cubes, a bag of crisps, and change. When the Corona lorry came down your street, every child in a 50-yard radius appeared from nowhere like pigeons after bread. Dandelion and burdock, cherryade, cream soda in that nobbled glass bottle. If you can still feel the weight of it in your hand, you know exactly what I mean. But the sounds didn't stop there, because the best sound of the whole week came on a Friday. You could smell it before you turned the corner. Hot fat, salt, malt vinegar so strong it hit the back of your throat. The chip shop on a Friday was the highlight of the entire week. You'd queue with everyone else, watching the fryer do its work, feet going cold on the tiles. The chips came wrapped in newspaper, proper newspaper, grease soaking through the pages, and scraps were free. You'd ask for them and get a beautiful handful of golden batter bits thrown on top at no extra charge. A bag of chips in 1976 cost around 12 pence. In today's money, that is well over £1, and yet it felt like the greatest luxury in the world. Carried home, shared out of the paper, on your laps in front of the telly. That was Friday, that was earned. Now here is something that nobody puts in the history books, but every working class family in Britain knew it without a word ever being said about it. The pawn shop. Dad's good suit would go in on a Monday morning. Sometimes Mum's ring went too. They'd come back out on Friday when the wages came in. Week after week. In on Monday, out on Friday. It kept the household turning when the money didn't quite stretch far enough. It wasn't shameful, it was just arithmetic. And half the street was doing exactly the same thing. The pawnbroker knew every face. Nobody needed to explain. You handed it over, you got your ticket, and you came back Friday. That was the economy of the working class street. Quiet, dignified, and completely invisible to anyone who didn't live it. But while dads were sorting the money, there was someone else holding everything together, and she never got the credit she deserved. She could feed 6 people from almost nothing, and she did it every single day without being asked and without being thanked. A tin of corned beef and a few potatoes. That was Monday. Bubble and squeak from Sunday's leftovers. That was Tuesday. Bread and dripping. Spam fritters. Oxo cube gravy on absolutely everything, because gravy made even the plainest plate taste like a proper meal. A pound of mince stretched to feed the whole table, with enough carrots, onions and potatoes thrown in that nobody left hungry. Vegetable peelings went into soup. Stale bread became bread pudding. Jam roly-poly with thin custard on a Wednesday that tasted like it had been made in a 5-star kitchen. Nothing was wasted, because there was nothing spare to waste. These women didn't have cookbooks. They didn't have Pinterest. They had a gas hob, a stone of spuds, and 5 hungry mouths to feed by 4 o'clock. And they managed it every single day, for years, without a single complaint. If you aren't from this world, nobody alive can properly explain to you what it felt like to sit at that table. You either know the smell of that gravy, or you don't. You either remember the sound of that pressure cooker, or you never will. It is not something you can Google. It lived in those kitchens, and it lived in those women, and it doesn't exist anywhere else on earth. But there was something else holding the street together. Something that happened once and became the day nobody ever forgot. Tuesday the 7th of June, 1977. Silver Jubilee street party. Long tables dragged out into the middle of the road. Bunting strung between the lampposts. Union Jacks everywhere. Some proper ones. Some made from bin bags and felt tip pens at 11 o'clock the night before. Sandwiches, sausage rolls, fairy cakes, jelly in paper bowls, and someone's dad had dragged a record player to the front step. Every mum on the street brought something. Every door was open. Every kid was in fancy dress running between tables, nicking extra sausage rolls when the adults weren't looking. There were races in the road, prizes made from ribbon and cardboard. Someone's nan was dancing in the street and nobody thought it was strange. The whole estate came together that day. It didn't matter what you voted. It didn't matter what you earned. For one Tuesday afternoon, every working class street in Britain looked exactly the same. and we were all in it together. That community, that closeness, that ability to pull 6 tables into the road and feed 100 people on a Tuesday afternoon. It didn't disappear on its own. The government decided the old terraced streets needed clearing. The corporations built out of town shopping centres that hollowed out the high street. The factories closed and nobody replaced them. The corner shop became a car park. The pawn shop became a mobile phone outlet. The catalogue lady was replaced by a website. And the estate that once had 100 eyes watching over every child got quiet. Not because the people changed, because the structures around them were dismantled one by one. And nobody asked us if that was all right. We didn't know it at the time. That's the thing that stays with you. We didn't know the Jubilee Street Party would be one of the last times the whole road came out together like that. We didn't know the rag and bone man was nearly gone. We didn't know the pawn shop would close. We didn't know Mum's recipes would go with her when she went because nobody thought to write them down. We were just living, just getting on. The cold bedrooms and the frozen windows and the coin meter and the catalogue and the chip shop Friday. It wasn't hardship to us. It was just life, our life. And it was full, properly full, of noise and neighbours and the smell of someone else's dinner and the sound of children on a street that never really went quiet until well after dark. We didn't have much, but we had everything that mattered, and we only understood that once it was gone. Nobody is coming to give us that street back, but as long as we remember it, it never completely disappears. If something in this video brought a memory back, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Tell me which part hit you hardest. Tell me about your street, your mum's kitchen, your catalogue, your chip shop. Friday, because those stories deserve to be told, and the people who lived them deserve to be remembered. If you know someone who grew up the same way, send this to them right now. They will thank you for it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. It keeps these stories alive, and there are many more coming, because some things are too important to forget.